So a little backstory on what we're doing today. We're just hitting a quick workout, and then we're gonna go sweat our asses off at the range in the 100-degree Texas heat. Get a little bit of time under tension in there, and then really the entire intent behind this trip is really to get these guys integrated into Infinite Grit. So a little backstory on Infinite Grit for those that are new to the channel. When I first got out of the Army back in January of 2023, I started Infinite Grit, which is primarily focusing on strength and conditioning coaching for you know, individuals that want to go soft, which is about 50% of our clientele. And then now we're expanding firefighters, law enforcement officers. We got some Secret Service personnel in there, so kind of expanded beyond the soft candidates. And over the last year, it's kind of grown. Got a decent community inside the app, and then bringing these two former Green Berets onto the team. So CJ is a former 18 Echo. He was the senior 18 Echo when I got to the team. And then Chris was actually my senior 18 Charlie on the team. So this guy was in charge of me. So really, they're the experienced ones. I'm just the one that got it all started, and then they're gonna be you know, really sharing their insights and knowledge with the future generation. So super happy to have them on. And the entire intent behind this trip is to get everybody on the same page, get everybody integrated into the team. That's one of the big goals with what we're doing, is like all of us, we talked about it the other day on a podcast, trained like complete assholes when we were preparing for selection, and even in group, like continued to kind of tear ourselves up a little bit before getting introduced to Thor and stuff. So now it's like taking all the stuff, the lessons we learned, backing it with like the, you know, the science, nature, actual sports physiology and kinesiology, and then providing training that enables guys to get to that higher level of performance without tearing themselves up. Because really in, you know, a tactical environment, there is no off season, right? For athletics and things like that, you have a kind of a peak period where you need to be at your peak, and then you can kind of deload, go into an off season, take it easy, recover. But when you're on a team, when you're in special operations, you're always going. So the difference is you have to be able to perform without having those injuries even get introduced in the first place, or if you do have them, know how to mitigate them so that you can continue to perform without, you know, letting your team down and having to take a knee. There was many times, like end of my career, I hurt my back pretty bad, and it becomes very, very difficult to heal up in that environment because you have a team that, you know, you want to go out and perform for. They're depending on you to do your job. So you taking a knee puts a strain on everybody else. So for a while, I just kept working through it, and it just kept getting worse. So for us, one of the things we really prioritize in our programming is getting to that level of performance that is required to even get into the environment in the first place, but really doing so without introducing those injuries. Was there ever a time in your career where you had like a nagging injury that just kept getting worse because you never took a knee and let it recover?
100% help. There you go. Well, the thing is, like, you can prevent these injuries as much as you can, but there are some points in your career where you just have to push through.
Yeah.
That's what sets you apart, right?
100%.
Like, some things are just like, hey man, it sucks, you're hurt, but how bad do you want this, right?
Yeah. So. Like smart programming, and
100%, yeah.
It has an impact on it.
Like when you're in the field, you know, like say Ranger School or something, like, holy shit, I'm hurt. Like, do you want to graduate? Do you want to get your tab? Or are you going to take that knee and go back a failure, basically, right? Right.
Like, I'm not leaving here unless they freaking pull me out of it.
Broke my foot like the second day of mountain, dude. I freaking pushed through. I went to Florida, and my foot, I was pretty sure it was broken, so I went to sick call, and I was like, okay, let me see. And the doc was like, yeah, dude, your foot's broken, but you got two choices. You go back to formation, or I send you to the hospital and you get dropped. And I was like, I need to go back to formation.
I'm not getting dropped.
I'm not getting dropped, dude. I was already in Florida.
Some guys like me are a little more lucky, and we get to PCS to Ranger School, and be an all-weather ranger. So, yeah, you want to talk about perseverance. Sitting there during BRC recycle for 6 weeks.
What got you?
Actually, I did Florida 3 times. First time was patrol failure, and then the second time, there were some dudes from mountains when they came in brought this sickness. They called it NPD, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So you either were shitting your ass or throwing up. So I was vomiting.
Oh, damn it.
It's like at that point we're like, hey, recycle.
Ah,
and it was right to BRC.
I also think too, lately, because like information is so free flowing and on the internet you see all of these crazy exercises that people are doing, people start getting way too concerned about like kind of what you're talking about on the podcast, like the nuances and the small stuff of doing an exercise. Like I have guys asking me all the time about like, should I be doing this single leg exercise over this single leg exercise, or this squat variation over this squat variation? It's like, dude, like ultimately the variation of the squat affects your performance very little. The actual movement pattern, so this squat as a movement pattern, the hinge as a movement pattern, the lateral pull, the vertical pull, lateral push, vertical push, like those should be covered with specific movements, and you can keep them consistent and build up that specific exercise over time and then swap it out. But ultimately it's like what you get the best stimulus with. Like if you get best stimulus with a front squat and it doesn't aggravate your back, if it doesn't aggravate your hips, things like that, versus a back squat or a Zercher squat, whatever, then do the one that feels best, and that's going to get you the best progress.
I'm transitioning completely to front squat now.
Yeah.
Because I can't hinge with my fractures in my lower back and the fusion. Like, it hurts so bad just to hinge. So I mean, front squat, you know, you're not hinging, but you're still activating the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I would suggest anyone who has legit lower back pain, switch to front squat.
Or don't be afraid to try different variations. Like even if you have lower back pain and you want to regress to goblet squats and slowly build up from there. What were you saying about the front squats and activation?
They did a big study basically where they plugged in muscle sensors, right? The needles that go into the muscles to see the electrical response to them, right? As they're doing the movements. And what they found was that there was no variation in the way that the leg muscles were activated in front squat versus back squat. The only big difference was within spinal loading. So spinal loading was significantly lower with front squat because you're actually putting the load in the front, and it's causing stabilization by the core instead of, you know, stabilization by the spine. So yeah, and then considerably lower downward pressure on the ankles too. So if you have limited ankle mobility, you can find that by doing front squat, you have a little more increased ankle mobility due to the fact that, you know, loading back and downward pressure on the ankles.
And because people are, you know, primarily sitting behind desks and stuff more prevalently today than ever, a lot of people do lack the ankle mobility and the hip mobility to properly do a back squat. So having the weight loaded to the front enables someone to keep their chest more upright and actually get into that squat, which is not only going to be better for their health and not cause those issues, but still be able to get depth and get that really big stretch in your quads.
Well, I think most people probably neglect their core too. Just like, how do you protect your back, you know, by activating that core?
Yeah.
Most of these movements, you're activating your core. So most people, you know, they get to the end of the workout and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do some core work, but whatever, I'll put it off, and then just keep putting it off. And then without a strong core, like that's what I focus on at least 4 times a week when I'm in the gym, is doing some core work so that I can, you know, properly activate and prevent further injury, you know, my lower back or anything.
Have solid bracing. What's your favorite core movements?
For core, I would probably say toes to bar. I like to do toes to bar. I like to do ab wheel rollouts.
Nice.
Planks, and then also I like to do glute bridges. It's, you know, obviously works glutes, but you're also activating the flow with that too. I do single leg variations with it also, just to keep that core strength. Like, yeah, 6-pack looks sexy, but I'm talking actual core strength, right?
Yeah.
Like
being able to brace properly.
Exactly.
Toes to bar is one of my favorites as well. Another one that I like is suitcase carries. Really work the obliques. I like a lot of carries for the bracing aspect of it, and then rollouts is another one of my favorites. So pretty similar.
Now, the one thing I'll say about about nagging injuries and about limited mobility, things of that nature, you can go online, you can do a Go a Lot app, you can do yoga, you can do all that shit, but at the end of the day, I always recommend people go see a physical therapist.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a consultation, show them where your weaknesses are at, show where your mobility issues are at, because they are, you know, not all PTs are the same, but they are going to be the most knowledgeable about how to improve weaknesses in the body in the target specific areas of limited mobility. So I always tell people, if you have the ability, go see a physical therapist for a consultation, explain the limited mobility that you have, and they might even notice mobility issues that you're not even aware of, and they can help at least give you exercises for increasing those range of motion, increasing that mobility, because self-diagnosing is never the right answer for anybody. So,
And before it gets bad, right?
Yeah,
I think that's one thing I did in the past too, is like I would wait to go see a physical therapist or a professional before until like I have the pain. Whereas if you, like you said, go see a physical therapist, identify those imbalances, you can really get ahead of it. Or figure out the movement patterns that are going to be work best for you, as opposed to just doing back squat because someone told you to.
Yeah, I would say
too, if you need imagery done, right? You can diagnose up to a certain point, but there's some things you just can't diagnose how severe it is. So you'll know if you need imagery, and then you can actually get it honed down to what actually is wrong with you, right?
yeah. I think there's a lot of people putting information out there that you can heal every ache and pain, like just, you know, like holistic approach or like doing certain movements, but there's legit injuries out there. Like people get injured all the time, especially in training improperly. So it's always good to seek out professional medical advice.
Yeah, like
and cover your patient.
like is going through the full range of motion with weighted movements good for mobility? Yeah, but does it necessarily heal the imbalances that are already pre-existing? No. So you have to do a little bit more specific work where that's where it really comes in.
The people I would especially urge to go see medical professional are people that are already in the military, because you have literally unlimited access to medical care at all times, and you have to pay nothing out of your pocket. And it's something that we neglect, that I'm guilty of, never going to, say, the PT, and it's as easy as scheduling an appointment in the morning,
Yeah.
and going and see them. So those are the people I would definitely urge to go to medical professionals and seek advice. Medicine ball, right? So this is a little smaller than the standard one, but same weight, right? So we're gonna replicate the ball throw. So it's however you want to throw it. You get 2 throws, right? And whoever throws the farthest is best. Whoever throws it the shorter, you got to do 30 burpees at the range before we start shooting.
All right, I'll mark it, and then you gotta stand by your ball.
Yeah, you gotta go stand out.
Chris got to do burpees.
That was your idea. It was.
I've never said burpee.
Oh.